general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. Oh, boy, oh, boy. What else is going on here? I don't know. What do we want to talk about? Brian, you want to talk about communicating with the judge? Before I let you answer your question, I'll say, it's difficult sometimes to communicate with the judge. I don't feel like they're listening to me all the time. But go ahead. What's your question?
Okay. Is it permissible to write to a judge if a litigant, say, were to write and provide some explanation for an ongoing case? They miss a court-ordered deadline, and they write to the judge with an explanation of what's going on. Is that permitted?
Well, I mean, anybody can write to the judge, but the judge isn't always going to read it, if that makes sense. Point blank being is you can't really write to the judge. I'm back this up. Okay, a lot of times people write letters to the judge, and they just get sent back. Realistically, all communication with the judge should be with the other party present or copied on it, meaning it's not ex parte, okay?
All right.
And if you're represented, then the judge wants to hear from your representative, not from you.
Okay, understood.
So,
and and there was a copy. The other side was copied on the letter, but it just, typically I wasn't aware that judges would receive communication and respond to it.
Well, they don't always respond to it. Let me put it to you that way. Or if they do receive it, they may respond to it to everybody. But, years ago I was in one county and the judge wrote me a letter and said, I saw your motion, but what do you really want by this? And I thought it was strange because I never had a judge write me a letter before. You know what I mean? But
Sure.
It was copied to the other side, and then I figured out from talking to another practitioner from that county what that judge expected me to do was write a response by letter to him and copy it to the other counsel. So it's all different. I have other judges that say, call my law clerk, and if you have a question on a procedural issue, like what we're looking for or how we want to set something up. We have other judges who say, don't ever contact my law clerk. That's an ex parte communication. So it's a kind of a fluid area, but the general rules are this. It should always be a three-way conversation. That's the first rule. Second of all, if you have a representative, your communication should come through your representative. And third of all, it's best to keep the communications on the docket and through formal court proceedings because that way there's a record of it. The problem I don't like about this letter writing thing is how do those letters end up in the appellate court later if they're not filings on the docket? And so that's a problem as well.
And you brought up the appellate court. Is there any way for the general public to look at the actual filings, actual content?
You drive right up to the Pennsylvania Superior or Supreme Court. You tell them what file you want to see, and there's public access to them.
No, over the net, online app.
They're not. We have docketing of that, but the actual live file is not scanned as of yet that I'm aware of. Now,
yeah, I was unable to find it, and. In terms of filing an appeal to a court order, a court order that was issued at the Commonwealth Court, does that have to be done at the prothonotary for the appellate or the prothonotary for the county?
Well, if you're at if the case is going to the Commonwealth Court, you file at the county level initially the notice of appeal, okay? And then they forward it to the Commonwealth Court. On the other hand, if Commonwealth Court has original jurisdiction, then you file directly there. And if it's an appeal from the Commonwealth Court, you file with the appropriate court, but usually that would be a request for aliquotter with the Supreme Court, and that goes directly to them. But if the Commonwealth Court had direct jurisdiction, then you'd file a notice of appeal with the Commonwealth Court, who would then forward it to the Supreme Court.
All right, so a court order at the Commonwealth County Court, if you're appealing that,
wait a minute. Are you saying Commonwealth or County? The Commonwealth Court is an appellate court. The County Court is a court of common pleas.
Okay, court of common pleas. I'm sorry. If you have a court order you want to appeal, which prothonotary office do you head to?
You go to the prothonotary of the courthouse where you're appealing the order from. So if you have an order in Cumberland County you don't like, you go to the Cumberland County prothonotary. For the civil stuff, criminal stuff's in the clerk of court's office, of course.
Okay, this would be civil.
Yep, civil's in the prothonotary. And of course, you have to file the appeal within 30 days of a final order. And in the civil practice, you may, in order to preserve your issues, have to do a post-trial motion within 10 days of any verdict or trial. Some civil matters don't allow for post-trial practice, and then you still can just do the 30 days. And some orders are what we call interlocutory, meaning you cannot appeal them directly. You have to wait till the whole case is over, and then you can appeal them. But that gets to be tricky as well. All right?
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Welcome to law school. 540-0580. Jamie, you have a question. Jamie?
This is Jeannie.
Jean?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. My question is very simple. When you buy a house, you get a deed. When
Right.
you buy a mobile home, you pay a title fee, and you get the title through the mail from PennDOT.
Okay.
Now, my question concerns a practice that's being done where mobile homes are being sold on what they call a bill of sale.
Okay.
They get no title.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't PennDOT losing some money here?
Well, ultimately, the title has to transfer if somebody wants to take ownership of it, right?
Well, the bill of sale, people are buying the mobile home, but they're not getting a title.
Then they don't really own it. So, here's the answer. I guess if I own a trailer and I want to rent it to you, I can rent it to you for $200 a month, right?
Oh, that...
I mean, but just to answer my question. You agree that's okay, right?
Yes.
Okay, what if I said, I'll rent my trailer to you forever for a one-time fee of $8,500?
Well, these are going for $500 to $1,500.
Right. But do you understand what I'm saying is, though, I'm going to
Yeah.
rent you my trailer forever.
Yeah.
And the answer there is, again, if I can rent it to you by a month-to-month basis, I certainly could strike a deal to rent it for life or whatever. But the problem these people are going to run into is they're not buying a transferable property interest because they don't have title. And if they don't have title, they can't transfer it to somebody else. They could, I guess, say, well, I have a bill of sale that says I have ownership of it, and the person who's buying it could buy what they own, but what they own is not title to the trailer. So it's not something I would recommend. On the other hand, I guess if somebody wants to sell you a trailer for $500 and you want to take the risk of them, claiming to be a title owner or transferring the title to a third party, and deal with those kinds of problems, I guess you could do it that way. But I don't think there's anything inherently illegal about it. There's just nothing inherently smart about it either.
Well, you've answered my question. So this is a practice that's being done by a mobile home park owner.
Right.
And everybody pays space rent, but these are going as TLCs, and $500 to $1,500 is all they're worth.
Right.
And they buy them on a bill of sale, and they're told at the end of the year they will get the bill of sale, but they don't get a title.
Yeah, and that.
But if they want to sell it, then they have to sell it on a bill of sale. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, right. And if I was going to buy it, I'd be like, what am I really buying here? Because you don't have title. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
That's my point.
Right, that's what I mean. So, but as long as they're okay with it, let people screw themselves all they want. I mean,
Okay.
Now here's the thing, right? And of course, this reduces any paying the title change or the tax on the transfer. So the owner may be trying to avoid those things, or the owner may simply not have the titles. Right?
That is quite possible, but how does the owner go about getting a title if there is none?
Well, if there is no title, there's ways to reconstruct a title or basically apply for a title or ultimately go to court to take title of property that should have a title but doesn't for some reason now.
Yeah, if somebody just moves out and abandons a home.
Right.
And the park takes possession of it.
Right.
Then that's sold on a bill of sale. There's no title.
That's what they're doing, probably,
Yes,
if I had to guess.
Okay.
And so they just don't want to be bothered to go get the title. And here's what the guy's figuring, right?
Uh-huh.
This thing's worthless lump.
Yeah.
I'll sell it for $1,000 to the new tenant.
Yeah.
I'll collect the lot rent. That guy may buy it on a bill of sale, and then when it's time for him to leave, he's going to discover that trying to tow that trailer away is going to cost him more than he's got in it. So he's probably going to leave it behind anyhow.
Oh. $5,000 to move one.
Right. So the answer is it's a good deal all around. They get a place to live. He gets a few extra bucks, and he has the security of knowing the trailer's probably not actually going anywhere, and nobody had to bother to reconstruct the title. So I don't know. I don't think it's a great idea, but if everybody's happy, who cares?
Well, we do because of the value.
Right.
But thank you for your time.
All right. Take care. 540-0580. See you after the break.
Let's return to Weekend Appointment with Carl Rominger on WHP 580.
Welcome back. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. Jim.
Oh, hey, I'm here.
Jim.
How's it going?
Good, man. What's
I'm
going
here.
on? Okay, you're here. You're live.
Excellent. Thank goodness. Hey, listen, and maybe it's even a moral question, but here's the story. My mom's in a rehab hospital right now. She was at a chain restaurant last week, getting out of a chair, and the chair was one of the ones they have with wheels on it.
Okay.
Chair slipped out from under her. She falls and breaks her leg.
Okay.
Now, she's in a lot of pain. She's going through a lot of rehab. My folks have good insurance, so there's not a financial issue here. But last night, my mom tells me, she's in a lot of pain. She doesn't want this to happen to anybody else. And honestly, I've never thought about ever calling a lawyer or an ambulance chaser or any of those people that want to sue for this or that thing. But I'm kind of conflicted, and I thought, I've listened to you a couple different times. You seem like a sensible guy. Any advice, any thoughts on how you handle something like that?
Yeah, let me give you a couple thoughts first off. First of all, there's no lawsuit unless there was something defective with the chair, okay?
Okay.
Or at least somehow defective in its use or manufacture or how it was set up. So there could be some issues there where there's just really no liability. Sometimes stuff just happens, so to speak. On the other hand, sometimes you find out that this has been a recurring problem and something that doesn't seem like an obvious issue. You can find out has been for them. Maybe find out she's the 14th person to fall out of one of these chairs because there's something weird about it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So we don't know. We don't know all that. So we'd investigate that. And now some people out there would be like, well, who cares what happened if the chair tipped and so what? It's probably partly her fault. And why sue and put this this company out of business? Well, the first answer is this company already has insurance in place, and the insurance company is going to pick up the tab for the accident, right? On the other hand, your parents' medical insurance is currently paying for all this, right? So one insurance company is paying. That insurance company will seek reimbursement through the lawsuit to the other insurance company. So you may also actually serve as helping keep medical insurance costs down by helping the medical insurance recoup the costs from a third-party tortfeasor. So that's an interesting issue all by itself. But here's the answer. You'd need to check it all out. And I've had some trip and fall cases where people have fallen, let's say, because of poor lighting at a store, or I had one years ago where there was grease on the sidewalk out front of a fast food chain because the kid took the bucket of grease out the front door and spilled it, right on the sidewalk, and my client happened to be the next guy walking up. Long story short is some of those settlements can be very surprisingly large. A lot of them turn out to be surprisingly small, just depending on the damages, and which, of course, in your mom's case sounds catastrophic, but also depending on the liability level and what's really going on. So without knowing more about how this chair failed or how she fell out of the chair, I wouldn't know whether I'd feel like it was a really good lawsuit or not. But it's certainly worth exploring. Why does she think that this would happen to other people? What's unique, or what was the situation with the chair?
Well, she's older and she's kind of frail anyways. But it's one of those. I don't know how to put it. It's got arms and it's got four wheels at a wheel at each corner,
right?
And they roll very, they're easy to roll, and I'm sure they do it in part so that when they're cleaning the restaurant, they move all the chairs out of the way, they get under the tables, all that sort of thing.
Right.
But they're very mobile. So she's a little older. She's a little bit less dexterous. She gets up, leaning on the arms of the chair, and because geometry and because she's not 100%, as coordinated as she might like to be, the chair slips out from under her with, as you put it, catastrophic results.
Yeah, and so the answer there is I guess it would depend what kind of floor you had, if it was too slippery, if there was, there should be some stability in the chair. But again, I wouldn't know what the answer is. And it sounds, some people are going to be going, rolling their eyes going, are you guys really thinking about suing somebody over a chair on wheels? And again, I would want to know because every once in a while, a seemingly benign thing turns out to be a recurring problem. So one of the cases, not to equate your mom's case to the McDonald's coffee case, but just to use that as an example, when that woman sued, we found out that literally 40-some other people had complained about being burnt by the coffee, okay?
Okay.
And McDonald's had internally done studies where they worked to find a temperature that they found created the most satisfaction in the customer. And they had intentionally set the coffee at above scalding because most people want, believe it or not, the average person wants their first sip of coffee to burn them just a little bit, right? That way you know it's good and hot. So people want that first sip to be pretty hot. So the temperature, the exact temperature of the coffee was engineered to maximize sales. So when the jury learns that the coffee was created to maximize sales, but they've had 40-some people get burnt by it, by the time this woman dumps it in her lap, what the jury concludes is, she was dumb for putting it in her lap, but McDonald's intentionally chose to keep the coffee above the scald point against human flesh because it sold more coffee. So, if you find out that that this particular store's had 10 people fall out of the chairs and it turns out it's because they're waxing the floor too much and combining these particular chairs in the floor, maybe it's worth pursuing. On the other hand, you may find out that this is just one of those things that happens. And, of course, it's a rolling chair. So just like the chair I'm sitting in now rolls, I can stand up on it and push up on the handles and push off of it. But I have to know that it might roll a little bit when I do it. And that'll become an issue because your mother's obviously of advanced age, I'm gathering.
Yep.
And that may be the true factor here. But then again, the fact that she's advanced age and that made her injury worse, that's not the issue. The question is whether she was negligent in trying to get up on her own if she's not capable of it anymore, or if she should have known that the chair was going to roll when it did, et cetera, et cetera. So you have a lawsuit you can explore. And I feel like it's one where if you can get a hold of some liability issue, you could make a decent recovery for her. On the other hand, it sounds like one where there might not be any liability at all.
Is there a way to do this? Is there a good way to explore this? Is there somebody or some kind of lawyer that would be worth checking out?
Yeah, well, here's what we would do as a personal injury attorney. I would want to know a little bit more about it, but probably you would want to find an engineer who knows something about floors and slips and falling from chairs and things like that, who can tell us what the appropriate parameters are and why this might happen. So like a typical car accident case, like where your car rolls over and the hood or the roof crushes in, I would hire an engineer right off the bat. And the engineer a lot of times would go, oh, that's a 98 Cavalier. Those aren't known to have particularly strong roofs, so let's look at how it crumpled in this particular accident. Or who says, these are actually pretty well built, so they're probably not going to have any liability. So there'd have to be some exploration. But again, it sounds like a lot of damage, and it sounds like a real tragedy, but it doesn't sound like a surefire winner. That's my initial impression.
So, are you the kind of lawyer that'd be worth talking to in person?
Yeah, I'd be happy to learn a little bit more. I'd like to learn a little bit more about this chair and where this was, so that we we don't need to do that on the air, so that we could just make a kind of a eyeball call about it. Okay. The other thing to look into is there may be some MedPay insurance. A lot of restaurants have what's called MedPay. And it will pick up some of the medical bills. So if your parents have co-pays or other things like that, the MedPay insurance may pick those up, even if there is no fault or responsibility. MedPay is sort of like you got hurt at my place. I don't care how it happened. Here's $5,000 to cover your medical bills if that's what you got. Or if you have $800 in co-pays, here's $800 to cover your co-pays. Okay. All right, boss.
Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
540-0580. Doug, losing license over insurance. What's going on, my friend?
Yes, I tell you what, these restaurants, you got to watch out. Question. Young kid didn't renew their insurance. The car was setting, and it wasn't being drove. It was on blocks on the garage, and now he gets hit with 90 days where they're going to take his car. And they're saying, okay, well, you can appeal this. Now, is that the kind of appeal where, you're just wasting your time because you're guilty, or can he explain what happened, that the car wasn't running, he had access to another car, wasn't driving it? And then the other question, too, is can they give him the right to drive to get back and forth to like McDonald's, which is where he works?
Right, and the short answer is no, they probably won't do a work license.
Okay.
They probably won't. How do I say this? They probably won't give him a work license, but it's probably worth appealing because, yes, sometimes you can work it out with the government to say, I understand that this is the violation, but here's what he was really doing in the meantime.
Okay. Now, and so an attorney may be able to go in there and talk face-to-face with them to say, look, why don't we try to give this guy a break maybe?
Yes.
Okay. So then that might be worth hiring an attorney for, is what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've worked out these insurance cases a million times at the DJ's office.
Okay. Now, but don't they appeal? Do they appeal?
They appeal to the Court of Common Pleas at this point. And so, what county are you in?
Carlisle.
Yeah. Cumberland County, it just depends on the facts. There's a very reasonable DA's office, and the police officers are reasonable usually, too. So they're going to want to know the whole story.
Well, now, here's the thing. He didn't get stopped by the police or DA. They just reported him for not having insurance.
He got one of these PennDOT, saw the cancellation, but no new insurance brought.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And being, 22 years old, he said, well, the car's on block, so we're putting the engine in. So how they figure, I don't have to worry about it. Then they say, okay, well, I can't drive. They're telling me I can't drive. They won't let him. They're going to take his car registration away. Right.
Yeah, that's one we can probably fix.
Okay. I'm going to refer him to you, but we'll probably end up getting a cost for this.
All right.
All right, thanks,
man.
All right, bye-bye.
540-0580. See, it's hard for me to do it with the zeros, Jay. Why do you make me do this, Jay? Tucker, when we come back, we'll talk to you about selling a murder house.
Let's return to Weekend Appointment with Carl Rominger on WHP 580.
Well, I'm back. And now, talking about Halloween coming up here. Tucker, you want to talk about selling a murder house?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you live in the murder house?
No, this is more theoretical.
Okay. Now, courts won't answer hypotheticals, but here at Carl's Kangaroo Court, we will do hypotheticals. So,
I wanted to know what the requirement was under Pennsylvania law to disclose a murder or a suicide in relation to a sale of a piece of real estate.
I believe, I could be wrong here, but I'm not sure that there's something that says if there's a murder or suicide, you must disclose. In other words, a law that says that literally. But you do have to disclose things that would materially affect the value if they're known to you. And my understanding is that a murder or suicide has been deemed by courts something that the seller should disclose because it does create a serious stigma value on the house. So, for example, I don't disclose to you, that great Aunt Bessie shot herself in my attic, okay? And you buy the house, and then, of course, people realize that this is the house, and the next buyer, somehow the news creeps out or something that had happened, and the next buyer says to you, well, I'm not buying that place for what you want for it because there was a suicide in there, and I'm afraid there's a ghost in the attic. So we've created a stigma, or at least I was aware of a potential stigma and didn't tell you about it or failed to disclose it. Sort of like if I failed to disclose that the septic tank, backs up every third flush, and I knew this. So I think the answer is yes, you would have to disclose it.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right, go sell your hypothetical murder house. Well, it's just a hypothetical. I mean, now, here's the good news. If you happen to luck out and get a murder house that was owned by a serial killer or, other weirdo, you may be able to, A, sell it for a premium to a desperate or lonely serial killer stalker type, the ones that write the serial killer's letters in the mail, or B, you may be able to get it worked into some kind of movie. We've seen two of these houses, the Amityville Horror and most recently the other house what was that movie that was out recently? You remember which one I'm talking about? Where it's just a brand new movie where it was based on some house, and of course the current owners of the house are thrilled to death because now every Tom, Dick, and Harry is showing up to see the house where these strange happenings took place. So you could actually increase the value, and the people that listen to this radio station between midnight and 4 a.m. would probably pay a premium for the opportunity to live in a house where there may actually be a spectral gate to a third dimension. And
you're actually giving me an idea. Like, you could also have a reality show about living in the murder house.
Right, living in the murder house. And we heard a noise. We can turn on the flashlight and run around and see the cat in the litter box and go, oh, it's just the cat again. Oh, look at that. But you can actually break the commercial as I run down the hall to see what it is, and then redo the whole scene all over again like they do in reality TV.
Right.
So they actually only film 15 minutes of your life, but they can stretch it into one whole hour by repeatedly showing you the same things before and after the commercial. But what you'll see after the commercial is the cat in the litter box, which you wouldn't have seen before the commercial because we have to build the suspense so that you watch the commercials and not go make a sandwich. I see this is how it's done around here, folks. This is media. Roosevelt?
Oh, man, y'all just finding all kinds of ways to make money. Of course, I don't know how the ad would go in the paper for that, but
wow.
Oh well.
You can make your own murder house.
Okay, well, Halloween is coming up, so you never know. Hey, man, you get a lot of calls about divorces. I'm a single guy. I don't know if you're single or
you
not.
Want me to start? You want me to start getting the girls' numbers for you?
Well, you can do that too. Okay, along with your ad for the haunted house.
Yes.
Okay, but anyway, I'm just wondering, one of these days I may take that step, and I want to know: is a prenuptial agreement really worth it? Does it really protect you?
Yes. In this state, very great divorce attorney in Harrisburg has said it best, that if you want to do a prenuptial, Pennsylvania is one of the best states to do it in because it's the law is the most ironclad, and that, in fact, this is true. Sometimes wealthy people will have their prenup done in Pennsylvania, particularly because our state has some of the best laws on them in terms of protecting you. Now, that said,
I knew that was coming.
That said, it's still got to be done in the right way. So, for instance, if you just take the prenup, I had a girl come in and she's like, my husband keeps holding it over my head that if we get divorced, I won't have anything. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? I mean, and she said, I just want to get the power position back in the marriage, back in line where he realizes that, he can't just use me and cast me aside, that in other words, we're equals. So I read the prenup, and the prenup's like a letter that this guy wrote and had her sign on the day of their island wedding,
Okay.
And I'm like, first of all, this letter don't do much. Number two, having you sign it immediately before the marriage when you've already traveled, to like the out across the ocean, so to speak, to sign this thing, it's not going to hold up for 800 reasons. And she's like, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay, well, yeah, okay. Under those circumstances, I understand. But if I'm in the state of Pennsylvania and I tell a woman I want to sign a prenuptial agreement that says basically anything I have before and after with my little fortune that I get is mine in case of a divorce, it will be legal.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Now, other question for you real quick. What is with WHP? You're a lawyer. You need to tell me why you didn't get this job. Why didn't nobody at WHP get this job? You, Art Shelby, Floyd, nobody.
Here's the answer. Ken Matthews actually does worked for Clear Channel over somewhere else. So he's still an inside line guy.
So he's technically, because Clear Channel owns the station, he is an employee, so that's fine.
But yeah, the answer is, of course, I keep liking to make fun of it. I don't know if you heard me at the beginning of the show talking about how I told Ken about,
you do with the baby.
Right. And I don't think he really was going to support me. I really felt like that. Anyhow.
Back child support. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I want my child support payments, Ken Matthews.
Well, come on, man. That's so hot. Why do you think you guys didn't get the gig?
Well, I think, the answer. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, you too, Matt.
Yeah, Matt, what do you think?
I think my microphone stopped working when it comes to this subject.
Okay.
Right. I just put him on the spot. See, Matt actually works here. I'm like a free agent, so I can be a little crazy and zany. Of course, I'll probably get some nasty gram or something. I got in big trouble the one time when I did an April Fool's joke on the air. Apparently, I was supposed to clear that, and oh boy.
RJ does an April Fool's joke every year.
Well, yeah, and it turns out Clear Channel has a very strict policy that you have to vet your April Fool's joke has to be vetted in advance.
Oh, okay.
I guess they're still worried about that Orson Welles' War of the Worlds problem, where like let's say, hey, there's a zombie apocalypse! Oh my gosh, they're invading Harrisburg! And of course, some idiot will crash his car. Somebody else will give his kids poison pills and lock themselves up in the attic and kill themselves on April Fools because they heard R.J. Harris say that there's a zombie apocalypse starting, and they, And it really would be true. There would probably be people jumping off of bridges.
Carl, but why you think you didn't get the job?
Am I filibustering you? Roosevelt, you're so darn good. I'll tell you why. I'm too good. I'm just too good. They couldn't handle it, Roosevelt. They just couldn't handle me. No.
I do believe you are good. There's no doubt about that.
No. The other thing is they wanted somebody who was wholly owned. And what I mean by that is... they wanted a slave. They didn't want... Now, what they really wanted was they wanted somebody who, I think, if I had to ask... listen, I'm a lawyer, first and foremost. So if they said to me, Carl, we want you to do this or that, I may say, well, I don't really need you, right? Talking about the power in the relationship. Boss, I don't need you. I don't need you to tell me what to do because I'll just go back to my law practice and make some more money. So I'm fine. I'm not coming in at 8 a.m. Maybe that's a big issue.
But on the other hand, because you're a lawyer, you would be more likely to protect their license than what you say on the air.
I do try to be careful about that. And the other thing, though, is, and one of the reasons why I really think that Ken should have me on his show occasionally is I've been willing to showcase and give away a lot of free legal information over the years. But I also think it's important because it brings an aspect. People like to make fun of lawyers, but we're trained thinkers, and I was sort of pointing that out earlier when I was going through that crazy guy's story about Ray Gricar. Like, I can just look at it and start to break it down and start to say, this is how I feel about it. Now, would I say it's absolutely false? No, because, again, being a lawyer, I have a problem with absolutes.
True.
Ask any woman that's ever dated me.
Well, what is stopping you deciding to call into the show?
Oh, well, I guess I could try.
Oh, what do you mean try? I mean, all the numbers.
That's true. I know. Well, the screener would have to put me on, but I guess I could pretend to be. Hey, this is...
Roosevelt, right?
Right, this is Roosevelt. Hey, my Goomba, calling from Lebanon. Let me on.
Oh, man. But I do enjoy your show, man. Why don't you call up Bob? Let Bob be a guest on your show.
I may yet say that. Matt, get Durgan on the phone.
There you go. I like that. Get Durgan on the phone.
All right, Roosevelt.
Hey, enjoy the rest of your weekend, man.
I will. Got to go to break. Thank you. 540-0580. The caller who just fell off the air. Get back on if you want to get on.
Let's return to Weekend Appointment with Carl Rominger on WHP 580.
Welcome back. Carl Rominger here. 540-0580. Mother, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. How are you?
Not
Is it raining down your way?
Well, it is very bleak out, but it's not raining out. How about up your way?
Oh, our way, we've had about 2.5 inches, and in some places they got 4 inches of rain overnight.
Wow, it's coming our way. I saw my buddy Christian posted on my Facebook a big map showing this giant green blob headed our way.
That's it.
So it's either actually the blob from the movie or it's bad weather. I hadn't decided yet, but I'm guessing, even though I was planning on a zombie apocalypse sometime this month, it's probably just the weather. So Have you been working on this cookbook that you were supposed to be working on? What's going on up there?
I am working on it, and I'm going to be working on it this afternoon, and I'm going to be making one of the recipes, some clam chowder.
Okay.
This afternoon, in a little bit. I was down to the Zirkles, and I'm going to take them some soup when I get done with it.
Gotcha.
They're making salsa from the garden, and as you know, with the big family and everybody helping, they've got probably 2 huge pots of salsa on the stove right now cooking.
Yeah, see? Now save me some.
Yeah, I'll tell Joyce we need at least a jar for each of us.
Yes, tell her that, please.
Okay.
And are my brothers still alive? I haven't talked to them lately.
They are. I haven't talked to Rob this week, but I did talk to Kurt. I'm going to go see him tomorrow and see the house that they're rehabbing. And Rob, they're busy, with the kids in school, and everything's going smoothly, it sounds like.
So now let's turn on to some more meatier topics here, because people really don't care about my brothers. I mean, I hardly care about them as it is, so I can't even imagine that the audience really wants to know any more about them. They're both ugly and not nearly as cool as me. So anyhow, what do you think about defunding Obamacare? Are you on board? Do you think it's going to happen?
I don't know if it's going to happen the way they'd like to see it happen, but I'm for it because I think it's going to be a disaster in the long run. So I would like to keep things the way they are. Now,
okay, Vladimir Putin or Obama, who won in the Syria arena here? What do you think?
Mr. Putin.
Yeah, now didn't he completely outmaneuvered Obama? Completely outmaneuvered him. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just too bad because that's something that we don't want to have happen with the head of Russia.
Well, and the interesting thing about it is it wasn't even it isn't even like they want us with beat us up with some crazy military action or some little proxy issue where they arm somebody. Instead, it was just straight diplomacy. Just slapped us like a redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, it's too bad.
So.
I just wish things weren't going the way they're going, but they are. So, I'm going to bear up under it.
Right. Well, the good news is England still exists, and they lost all their power years ago.
This is true.
So maybe another 50 years when we've completely lost all our influence. I'll give you an example down here. There's a warehouse that somebody wants to build over in Carlisle, and the anti-warehouse people are all out. They're going to build 3 million more square feet of warehouse, and it's going to have a bad end. And I'm like, well, I'm glad everybody's got a damn job, because obviously we don't need jobs around here. And there's just this whole thing about nobody seems to want. Everybody wants to have a nice house and make money, but nobody wants anybody else to have a job.
Not in my yard.
You're right.
So to speak.
Well,
your grandfather used to say that. It was basically that it's nice to have all of these things like the environmental done and everything else, but again, if you don't have a job, you're not going to be doing anything.
Well, it's like I say, frack the hell out of it and then frack it again.
Yeah, that's an issue here in New York State. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't think the same way Pennsylvania.
Oh my God, they're making money hand over fist up there. Somebody just told me you can't but buy a 1-year-old pickup truck in the middle of the state because these guys don't know what to do with their money, so they keep buying a new pickup truck every year.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
All right, Mother, get back to your work and get us that darn cookbook, okay? Because people are going to want.
All right.
And let's tell people you're going to put about 30 recipes in there, including a few that we've sampled on the air here. And we're going to make it available for download.
Okay.
All right?
All righty. Yep.
All right. Love you.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye. There she was, the woman of the hour. Jorge, you're on the air, Jorge.
Yeah, Carl, just a crazy question, thinking outside the box. Not that I've been in this situation, but, you always hear people that you're pulled over for possible DUI, that type of thing. And sometimes I guess they still do this, but the cops make them try to walk a straight line. Is that legal, and do they still do that?
Make you walk a straight line?
Yeah, in other words, they, before doing the breathalyzer came in.
Yeah, they do.
They had them try to walk like a straight line.
Yeah, they do. They call them field sobriety tests, and the ones they do these days are the horizontal gaze and astigmatus, where they use a light in their finger in your eye, and they completely claim they can be better than a neurologist at reading whether you've been drinking or not. So the courts have said that's not admissible because police officers really aren't competent to perform that kind of test or give that kind of testimony about a neurological result based on a medical test. But the other ones they use are the stand on one leg and count to 30. And the other one is walk and turn nine steps, heel to toe with a little pivot turn at the end, which nobody can do sober anyhow. One-legged stand, pivot test, and I think I'm trying to remember what the other one is. But
so they can actually legally make you do that.
No, see, they can't make you do them, but everybody thinks they can. So if you watch my...
here's where I was going with this. In other words, if he'd ask you to do that, like you say, hold the one leg up in the air for so long, can you say, okay, I'll do that as long as you do it as well? In other words, just like you're saying, the average individual has a hard time doing it. So can you have equal rights here and say, okay, I'll do it if you do it as well?
You could do that, and then he'd claim he did it just fine and you did it poorly. So the right answer is simply to say, I don't... When they first started asking you questions, you got to be right from the beginning. I'm going to invoke my right to remain silent. I'll give you my license and my registration. And if you want to ask me any further questions, I'm going to invoke my right to remain silent. And if they say anything else, you say, I'd also like to invoke my right to an attorney. And then they say, well, would you get out of the car? And, of course, what I said one time was, I'm not getting out of the car. And he said, get out of the car. And I said, I don't need to get out of the car. Well, you need to get out of the car so you can do some field sobriety tests. And I said, well, that's good because I don't do field sobriety tests. And then he's like, get out of the car. I'm like, okay, if you're ordering me out of the car, I'll get out of the car, which they are allowed to do. And then if they say, well, take the field sobriety test, I'll say, no, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious how that worked because it always seemed kind of pointless and senseless, and I just wondered if it really was legal. And, like you said, most people can't stand on one leg and hold the other up in the air for X number of seconds or whatever. And I just thought, well, how about equal rights here?
The other thing they do to you, by the way, is they'll give you the field sobriety test, then they'll ask you to blow the portable breath test. Mm-hmm. Why the hell don't you just give the portable breath test first, right? I mean, if you really just want to know how much alcohol's in the guy, why not just have him blow into the damn machine? You know why? Because they want to be able to say you failed your field sobriety test so that if you decide to take a trial or fight the DUI later, they can use it against you. And that's part of the law enforcement instruction. Okay? Always do the field sobriety, even if you know the guy's drunk, so you can use it against him. Then have him blow the portable breath test. They are there to get you. All right, my friend.
Okay. Well, I just, it was kind of an oddball question, but it came to mind.
No, I understand entirely. I got to take another call here quick. I'm running out of time.
Okay.
Let's see here. Rose.
Hi, hey. Carl.
What's up?
My husband owns a home, and in 2005...
Oh, no. We're out of time. Call my office, 241-6070, 241-6070. Again, Chad, Rose, I'm so sorry. Call the office, 241-6070. Of course, anybody else needs to get a hold of the office, 241-6070, or go to RomangerLaw.com and join us on Facebook. We answer lots of questions on Facebook every week for folks, so if you guys missed it at the end of the show, just get me on Facebook, shoot me your question in writing, and I will fire you an answer. Love you guys. See you next week.
I can solve difficult problems for a Fortune 500 company.
I can run a successful business.
I can manage your home improvements.
I can publicize your message.
I can motivate your audience.
I can put my military experience to work for your company.
I can teach your children.
I can boost your bottom line.
I can add value to